I guess we should start with coming in yesterday to that press conference, having read the report, having been briefed on the report and started the appropriate conversations, knowing that you were coming in to tell us about it. What was that wait like?
It's been a heavy several days for the chief and I and our very small team that was working on this. And just to be clear, neither the chief nor I had read the report until yesterday after the press conference. We had, in the past several days, we had got an oral briefing about what the findings of the report were. But when we read the report yesterday afternoon, and when we heard the Attorney General and his other colleagues speak yesterday, those were some of the first times we heard some of the specific incidents that they were referring to and what their proposed measures for reform and improvement were. And so it was tough to read all of that. But the chief and I, even before we had the briefing on what the findings would be, we had made a commitment to ourselves, to our administrations, to our departments, to our city, that we were ready to embrace reform. That we both believe what this city needs now is reform and improvement. And it was important for the pain of the past to be described by the Department of Justice so that we can move forward as a city together. And that's what we're focused on.
Very surprising to learn that you were learning about these things, some of the specifics, in real time as we were. What surprised you the most that you heard in real time in front of cameras?
Yeah, and I should clarify, there were two individuals the day before that had, from our administration and LMPD, that had a chance to review the report, and so we did get briefed on it. I just hadn't personally read it, which is a different experience than having someone else tell you that. And of course, in a briefing, we didn't go over every detail. But it's just, even though I wasn't mayor, the chief wasn't chief at that time, it's painful to hear when people in our community treating others in ways that nobody wants to be treated. And particularly when they're a sworn officer of the law. We heard yesterday the Department of Justice say what we agree with, that the vast majority of the hardworking men and women of LMPD are honorable and good public servants who are in this for the right reason because they want to keep everyone safe and they're doing their job the right way. Unfortunately, not everybody was like that. And so just those incidents are very difficult. We have to acknowledge those, we have to deal with that, and we have to build from that as how we move forward together, knowing that there are painful reminders of things that we're not proud of in our city.
Where are you now in the negotiation process with the Department of Justice?
Oh, it hasn't even really started yet. I mean, we know that we have an agreement in principle, so part of embracing reform was agreeing to a 2-page agreement in principle where we acknowledge the Department of Justice has these findings, and we commit to negotiating in good faith towards a consent decree. But we will begin those negotiations shortly. Yesterday was about getting the message out. The Department of Justice met with the chief's entire command staff, community conversations, us having a lot of conversations with the community and within our departments. But that's what we're getting to right now.
Chief, when we look at the specifics of the report, knowing that we are currently not under a consent agreement, and when you read the specifics of the report, what stood out to me were the tenses that were used. They weren't using past tense. It didn't say Metro Police on occasion did this. It was very discriminates against people with behavioral health issues, unlawfully discriminates against Black people, implying that these things are systemic and continuing. Knowing that we are not currently under a consent agreement, what is the trust level that you hope people would have in this moment for the police department?
Well, one of the things we want to make sure the community understands, we want to hear you. And that was glaring in the report, that they weren't heard. And so with that, it means building more great community partnerships, strong, intentional community partnerships by the community seeing the leadership, which is myself, out there in the community, being very engaged, being very personable, but also admonishing and making sure that my command staff is doing the same thing as well, and then it trickles on down to the troops. That's very important. That's key to order to build these relationships. People don't want to hear lip service. They want to see action. I heard them, and they're right, because the citizens of Louisville, they deserve that. And I want to speak clearly. The past is troubling. It is. It's unsettling. But the vast majority of our officers are doing it the right way. And I believe today we are doing it the right way. But it comes with strong supervision, comes with the proper training, the right policies in place, but making sure the supervisors are actually front and center with their officers. Who are these individuals who are serving the community? What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? So we've implemented a lot of great changes and reforms in place to help with that. We need the tools, we need the mechanisms in place. And I'm so grateful to the mayor for actually embracing and accepting that. Give us the tools that we need in order for us to be the best department we should be for this great city.
And having said that, and acknowledging the work that the police department is doing daily and the changes and initiatives that have been put in place, what was it like addressing the police officers, however you did it, either before or after the report, to explain this is what this says and this is how we're moving forward?
So immediately after the press conference, I sent a notification to the whole department, letting them know that I'm proud to be a part of them. They are my family. Showing and reiterating to them some of the initiatives that we have in place is very important for them to hear from me. But then after, even later on that day, I had a meeting with the command staff, and I actually allowed them to actually sit in the actual feelings of what the report had revealed. That is very important. Just as though we need to hear the pain of the community, I needed to hear the pain of my department. I didn't separate myself from yesterday. I said, we, together. That's very important for us to be able to navigate these troubling waters together, but allow them to express themselves. But then I asked the question, now we have the report, we know what it states, we know what we have to do, now what? That is the now what. I need to understand we have it, now what are we going to do? And that means move forward with change and reform.
Were any of them hurt?
Yes, yes. And I felt their pain because I want to be very, very clear. Any officer that taints the badge, it bothers all of us who are trying to do it the right way.
The DOJ suggested 36 recommendations, and to be clear, several of which you have already initiated. But when those are all said and done, how confident are you that the police department will be where you want it to be, and the public perception of the police department will be where you want it to be?
I'm optimistic about our future because, as you just heard from the chief, we're not making excuses. We're focused on making changes. We're focused on making progress. And so we've already begun doing this work. We will continue to do this work. This work doesn't end. Just like in any organization, you constantly have to be looking inward for ways to improve. As the world changes, as people change, as circumstances change. So this work is never going to end. We're always going to be striving to be the best, to be better, but we're ready to embrace that change. And I am very optimistic about the opportunity to have a police department that everyone in our community trusts, because they see that the training is great training for officers. We're running a transparent department. We're running the officers are interacting with community. They know members of the clergy, neighborhood leaders, small business owners, and they're working together to prevent crime from happening hand in hand with strong, personal, trusting relationships.
With the understanding, or actually following up on something that you just mentioned, the effort to look inward, I want to follow up on a question that I asked yesterday about some of the things that were learned, some of the specifics that were learned in the DOJ findings report about some of the activities, unlawful activities as it lays out from some of the officers. Will there be an effort, an initiative, an order to go back and look and re-examine some of these cases to see if there was officer wrongdoing?
So as you heard yesterday from the Assistant Attorney General, Kristen Clark, this was a civil investigation. So the Department of Justice will not be making any criminal recommendations as a result of their investigation. What we are doing is the chief and her team are going back. Again, we just got the details yesterday in writing. And so we're going back to look at which incidents we were aware of, which we aren't, and to see where we go from there.
And is it fair to say, because I understand that the DOJ would not issue criminal charges from its investigation, but at the same time you did learn things from that could prompt that from your part? Would it be fair to say that you will be scrutinous of looking back at some of those instances?
Yeah, we are definitely going to look back at those incidents. Many of those incidents were already publicly known. Things like the incident with the slushy, that is certainly something that has been out in the public for a while. There were others that we were just hearing about for the first time, so we'll go back and look at each one that we were not aware of.
As we were making an effort yesterday, like a lot of other people, to learn about these consent decrees and what they actually mean and what they've looked like in other cities, we reached out to the city of New Orleans. And one of the things we learned was it cost them between $7 and $8 million to implement the changes suggested or requested or demanded. Do you have at this point any kind of idea of what type of dollars we're looking at for any of these recommended initiatives that you would have to put in place? And if so, where would that money come from?
So we don't have a budget on that yet. What I can tell you, though, is we are going to be focused on ensuring that this city has the resources to implement reform, to implement improvements, but also to implement on so many other things that are required to ensure a safe city, one where we reduce the amount of gun violence. It's not just through policing. It's about continued investments in people, in neighborhoods, in our youth that are most at risk, so that every child in our city is growing up with hope, with opportunity, and with a good relationship with the police department, and their encounters are positive encounters. So that does take funds. We will certainly be using city general funds in the budget that we propose coming up in a few months towards all of those goals. I will also tell you, after the press conference yesterday, when we had a short meeting with representatives from the Department of Justice, I also said to them, we're going to be asking you for help as well, and what federal resources are available to help implement the reforms and needs for improvement that you are suggesting we make ourselves. And so we will be making that request of the Department of Justice. We'll be looking at other federal resources as well to see if we can have outside resources help pay the cost of doing all of what I just described to have a safer, stronger, and healthier city.
One thing I want to touch on also is the FOP released a statement yesterday, and I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but it alluded to, it said something to the extent that this report should not go unchallenged and is an unfair assessment. I'm curious of your reaction to that.
Again, we must move towards the negotiation process, and that's a part of it. Everybody coming together, all necessary parties, giving their opinions, their views, and see can we come to the meeting of the minds. And so I'm very hopeful that the president of the FOP, as well as myself and all other leaders, especially the mayor, will be able to come together and be able to reason together and use wisdom as we navigate these uncertain and troublesome waters. And so that's all a part of that. And so I'm very optimistic that we'll have everybody on the same page as we move towards this for the betterment of the city.
I get the feeling of an effort to create stability right now. It's the feeling that I'm getting from what you all are saying. Create stability, move forward. The only thing that stands out to me, though, is when we talk about stability, the word interim doesn't lend itself to permanence. Where are you in the process or thought process of naming a permanent police chief?
So as I announced a while back, we thought the community deserves a process for that, again, to involve community input, just like we're going to with the consent decree. The same thing was important for that. And so we're hopefully next week, we did an RFP for a search firm. Hopefully we sign that agreement with the search firm next week, who will begin the process, which will involve community input. But let me be clear to you, which our chief knows because we've been clear with each other. She is fully empowered to manage LMPD regardless of that word interim in front of her. I have complete trust, faith, and confidence in her leadership and her team's leadership to move us forward in the right direction. And we have to continue moving forward. Nothing can wait. We cannot wait days or months to implement reforms, to implement improvement. Part of what the DOJ report says is that there needs to be improved training, improved supervision. And so those are things that take leadership. And we are fortunate in Louisville right now that we have Jacqueline Gwynn Villarroel serving in this role, providing the leadership that she is providing to our department. That's what we need.
So my last real question, and then I'll turn it over to you to see if there's any notes that you wanted to add. Obviously, the 87, 86-page report speaks for itself, and it paints a fairly damning picture. One of the things that I've kind of had on my mind to ask you for quite a while is a number of us have been victims of petty crime here and there. A lot of us have run marathons, and we see the police officers working the intersections, and the crimes are solved very quickly. The races go smoothly. It's a positive interaction with so many. But then this report comes out, and this is what gets the focus, right? What is the story that you wish that we were telling about your department?
See the officers that serve you every day as human. See their compassion. See their service to you. See that this report has rocked them just as much as it has rocked the community, but they're still showing up. Their dedication to the noble profession that they have decided to raise their hand and say, I swear. See them, and they're going to continue to do their job. We're not laying down because we have work to do, and the urgency is there. And so we have a mission, we're driven, and we're going to reach those goals as building those community relationships. So you still have a police force that will still answer the call. And I'm truly, truly blessed to be able to say, and they're going to answer the call, and they're going to answer it the right way. The right way. And this is a new day. This is a new direction. And my force is standing up and say, even through this, we still have a mission, and we still have a drive within us to keep this community safe. The community needs it, deserves it, and I expect it, and I'm requiring it. That's it.
What else?
She said it.
Thank you both.
Thank you.